have saved that question until after.
Yeah.
Because now it's fucking my brain up. We're live. Hey, we're live, folks.
We're live.
ain't always about that damn trophy, right?
Yeah, it's not about the trophy.
Rocking and rolling
Hey,
already.
what's going on, Warriors, Patriots out there?
It's Wednesday. That's what's going on. We're reformatting the Patriot Business Alliance. We're gonna tighten things up a little bit. We're gonna dial it in a little bit, and we're just diving right in a little bit. So, Mike, let's start. What are we talking about tonight?
Man, we've been reading a book, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. We just had to review some chapters, and one of the chapter that's kind of stuck out to us was it's not always about the trophy.
Damn right.
And that plays a big, that's a big statement.
Yes.
Right. Because we live in a society that it's almost everybody's a winner and everybody gets a trophy.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know there's times in my life where we think you did just a stellar job and you end up coming in second. Right. And everybody's hanging their head. But a lot of times what we forget about is the journey that took us to getting to that trophy, to that win, right. And that's what I kind of took out of that chapter.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Being able to go headstrong into something that I don't know anything about. And I know Jeff has listened to this book several times and he probably has a little bit more insight in that chapter, but I know that he decided to run 100 miles in like 24 hours.
Insane, dude.
And he wasn't prepared.
No,
right.
He took it on a 3-day notice, and it was a prequel to getting into another race. Yeah. And the guy told him, like, I don't care who you are, how cool you think you are, run this fucking race. We'll see how you do. And then maybe you can get into the next one. So he took it on 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days, and his wife was tripping. Yeah. He ended up like getting one of his lungs collapsed during the race.
He damn near had kidney failure by the time it was all said and done.
Yeah, he was pissing and shitting on himself. Yeah. Wife didn't even take him to the hospital.
He said in that chapter that it was more significant. He ran 101 miles that day.
Yeah,
he said it was more significant that he completed that than getting his Navy trident.
That's right.
And that's saying a lot, dude. I mean, to be a Navy SEAL is prestigious.
Mm-hmm.
For someone to do 101 miles. Have you driven 101 miles? It takes you about 2 hours.
2.
I mean, depending on not if you're like Doc, but
I mean, what?
Roughly, right? About 2 hours is about 100 miles.
Yeah. Were you in 1953 in Smallville?
101 miles in 24 hours. Just think about what that means and what mental capacity you have to get through something like that. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, like Doc's saying here with this chapter, is not the accomplishment, but what he did prior to that, which was nothing.
Right.
He just jumped into it.
And how many of us in business have just jumped into something?
I did it.
And not knowing, not having a business plan, not having a,
hey, babe, I'm quitting my job plan, and I'm
running.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a runner. Like, you don't even like to run.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what David did here in this chapter. Literally left without a plan. Like the master plan over here had his exit strategy dialed in, all these things lined out. You and I exactly like that, behaved exactly like this. We're going to jump in. We're going to overcommit. We're going to figure it out later, and it'll be fine.
And what we understand about that, right? So here's why I jumped into the 2 companies I did without having any qualm in the world. It was about pride. Okay. Somebody told me I couldn't. Right?
Hold my beer, watch this, huh?
Right? Somebody says you can't, Mike. There ain't no way you're going to fail, Mike. Right? Mm-hmm. And so it was a pride thing. It's like, wait a minute. I just went around the world, just went and was a part of the most elite freaking team in the world. Right. And I have these accolades that support me but then for you, this schmo, so like, no, ain't no way you're going to be able to make it. And those schmoes that I'm referring to are typically the ones that are closest to your circle. Fair. What that made me understand was how much pain can I endure.
It made you think about how much you can push yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do this on pride, that means pain and failure and obstacles are not an option.
You know what's crazy, man? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that has a lot to do with what Mr. Goggins is trying to impart to the reader. And then I strongly encourage you to listen to the audiobook because it has the narrator who he's clearly good friends with, and they have dialogues that are not in the paper version.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it is amazing because you get a few extra nuggets. But one of the things that Doc was just saying that, and I probably interrupted you from just saying, Jeff, is that you're going to be put in a situation where you're testing yourself mentally. And it really comes down, whether it's a physical 101 miles in 24 hours, or can I feed my family during coronavirus without going broke and not lay one person off? Whatever that challenge facing you, business owner, is, you're going to have to dig deeper than you've ever dug to not fail. And you'll realize it in those moments, just like Mr. Goggins is sharing with us, you have so much more that you're capable of, right?
Well, 100% agree with you there. And I think anybody who's put themselves in a situation to push themselves past anything understands that to an extent. I don't think any of us, from the most elite athlete to even us sitting in this room, truly understand that the brain is such a crazy muscle in your body that we just don't understand it.
We only use like 10%.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the ocean, man. There's so much more untapped stuff that you don't know about.
Right.
Imagine this. In the book, it talks about, being comfortable when you say you're going to set out to do something very difficult. And I'll use the example just like he did. I'm going to climb Mount Everest while I'm sitting at home in my fucking comfy pants, got a hot coffee, right? It sounds really good when you're not in the shit, right? The thing that I wanted to relay that I got from this is like, don't let that false motivation even keep you from doing it. Let that false motivation push you forward to actually take the jump.
Yeah, that should be the igniter.
Mm-hmm.
That is the igniter, and that was his igniter.
Yeah. Exactly.
He was like, man, I want to climb that mountain, right? And that was my igniter. And man, I can be a business owner. I can do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sitting there seeing other people do it. I'm seeing the person that I'm working for doing it. And so there was a lie that I guess essentially told myself, because it wasn't fact-based, because I didn't have a business.
Yep.
But I told myself I can do it. Right. And then when I started,
a little bit more than that, you said I can do it better.
I can just, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit more than that. Yeah. Right. You're like, it not just I can do that, but I can do that better.
I can do it better. I can do it quicker. I can do it smarter, more effective. But I still had to do it.
Right.
Right.
But it takes a spark.
It takes something.
You know what? And he said that, right? I mean, did y'all catch that little, right? Like how does a fire become, how does a spark become a fire, right? Well, you start out with like a little bit of, like an old bird nest or some twigs, right? You get some kindling together, and then, you get your striker, and then you make that fire, and then you protect it and you fan it, and then you start fueling it.
Then you put the big logs on, and you
right. And you just start stacking it, so that fire that you built is so hot. People are like, man, is that guy hiring?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What's going on?
And I work for you.
And but the beauty of that fire, right, is when you were there and you were struggling and you're constantly chipping. Hours go by, days go by, nothing. And the people over here, you're never gonna get it. You ain't never gonna get it. You're never gonna get it, right? And then when you get the fire, right, everybody's your best friend now, right? Everybody's your damn best friend, right? Because they want to stay warm, because you went through the journey.
Yeah.
And now they have the reward of the trophy.
All the cold folks keep coming over.
Everybody gets to share in the win, because the guy put in the time, the work. He did the work.
Man, it's, you guys have heard me say this, and I don't know, maybe some of you folks that listen to us that know me or whatever, but everybody nowadays wants to get the trophy, but they don't want to run the race. And the moment you step into an arena where everybody's wanting the trophy, but there's no race to run, like, you have to look at your circle. I did mine. I looked at mine real close, and I don't hang out with a lot of people, man. I probably spend more time with you guys than I do probably anybody, except for my family and my wife and the people that work for me. But if you're surrounded yourself in a room with people who want the trophy but don't want to run the race, you're in the wrong fucking area in your life.
For sure,
Keith.
Without a question about it. And the thing I like about tonight's format is, bam, we're jumping right into it. And I'm going to tell you right now, this chapter is probably one of the most influential chapters in the whole book, because he starts talking about all the trials and tribulations that he went through in just a race. But at the end of the chapter, he talks about the cookies.
Yes.
Right. And the cookies are the good things that you pull on. So when the day sucks and the shit's hitting the fan, find a cookie. And it's
mile 81.
Yeah, exactly. So all the little things good that you've done created your LLC, got your business bank account. Those are little chocolate chip cookies that you can just stuff away in the cookie jar. So don't forget when you're in the shit that it's okay every now and then to pull a cookie out.
And use that to right, reignite the spark. Like, you need to keep your mind on that imaginary cookie jar with those. And it's more than just like an accolade or an I love me wall that you can go look at in your office. Man, look at all that stuff.
No one gives a shit about that.
Yeah. That's not what he's talking about with the cookie jar. It's just like the mental wins, the you know, I got in 100% alignment with my wife. Right. I went to church on Sunday with my son, you know, whatever these little alignment, right. I got to go play golf, or I got to go see Metallica with my kid, you know, whatever that is. Right. You know, those are the little moments, in addition to all the big accomplishments.
Well, it's the business wins too, though, man. It is. You know, it's the things you do good in business. You brought on a new hire. You started a second
you break
location.
6 figures. Now you're breaking 7 figures.
Now you're opening up a new shop. Now you're opening up a new place. Now you got 12 people, 15 people. You know, the chocolate chip cookies are more than just about your personal life. Like in a business, like, hey, you got a new vendor relationship. That saved you money on shipping, because now you can hit over the order shipping, you know, your margins increase or whatever. When you're having those troubles and those struggles, number one, don't be afraid to ask for help. Right. I do it all the time with you guys.
That's what we're here for.
And number two, you got to go back to some of the positivity, which goes back to gratification. Like you got to be grateful about what you have, even when the worst of the worst is happening.
That boils down to the gifts of reciprocity. So when I said it's not about the trophy, when he writes that title, because it isn't. My trophy is, what did I get to accomplish? What journey do I get to share with others so that they don't have to experience those same things? Right. And a lot of people, we get all the way to the end and we reach whatever goal we set forth, but we just totally throw the journey out the window. Right.
I think a lot of people forget that at the end of the journey, like in this chapter alone, he says, you know, his wife wanted to take him to the ER, like right away.
Right away.
And
Which
he said,
should have.
Of course. Yeah, agree. But in his mind, callousing his mind, that brutality he put his body through and that suffering that he did, at the end, he wanted to feel that.
Yes.
You know why? Because it's in this chapter that he understood that he is only using 40% of what he's really capable of.
Yeah.
This is a critical chapter in this book.
Yeah. And that's where, when I say, how do you get to understand your pain threshold?
Exactly.
Right. In business, there's a pain threshold that you must embrace and overcome. Right. When your payroll is being floated by another, you know what I mean? And your people are waiting on your money and you're like, holy crap. And you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, but you know it's coming.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to feel that uneasiness, right? So that you remember that you don't have to go back there.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that's the big point.
That is the big point, right?
Now he'll never go run 100 miles without a little bit of prep work. And more than what did he drink? What was he drinking? Like a protein shake or some shit? And some granola and a granola bar.
Yeah,
like it was ridiculous.
Ritz crackers and Mileplex is what it was. Stupid.
It's ridiculous.
And I tell you what, man, it's exciting to listen to someone's story like this, because it really puts in perspective. Like when you think, man, I'm really having a shitty day. Nah, bro, you're not. Right.
You got more in you. You got a lot more in you.
Speaking of which, so my daughter calls me today and she's just bawling. Right. She's like, Dad, I don't want to go to school. I was like, probably not the right guy to call. I told her, I said, calm down, take a couple deep breaths. And I need to be able to hear you. Right. Because it was just, why, you know what I mean? If anybody's heard a girl cry, it's not the greatest sound. And so so she finally calmed down enough and I talked it out of her, and she's just everybody was a senior in high school, right? It's April, it's
so close,
you know what I mean? And I was that way when I was getting ready to get out of the Navy, right? Like shit, 3 days in a wake up, you know what I mean? And and that's what she's feeling right now. And I told her, I said, look, what you're feeling is you're anxious to get to school. You're turning 18 years old. You have a lot of big growing changes that you're doing. There's a lot of unknowns that you're about to go through. And I told her, I said, when I was going through my changes, I said, I started to develop prayer. Right. And so I texted her the Serenity Prayer.
Yeah.
And she's like, why would I need to read that? I said, just read it. And I said, read it again and read it until it sinks in.
So she gets something from it.
Right. Because the words in there are powerful. She's trying to change something that she can't.
Yeah.
Which is to complete school faster than she can. And you just can't. And I was like, once you can accept that fact, then go and embrace all the things that the school offers you and quit being and get your blinders off. You know what I mean? And
I think we all get that way, man. I mean, high school. I mean, hell, I was, same way with Marine Corps, like 3 days in a wake up, same thing. It's funny to hear you say those words because I say those words and now my son counts his days like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think the fact of the matter is that you're using your cookies and the good things that you can share with your kiddos.
Yeah.
And you're planting those seeds. Like you got the youngest ones. I mean, aside from the older ones.
I got a 5-year-old.
Yeah, you do. But you guys have the younger ones.
Yes.
Right? My son's about to be 16. Haley's 18.
16.
Like Jake's almost 16. Like I think we've already made an impression on them to a certain point to where they're kind of their own people.
They are.
We can guide them, right?
Yes.
And I think you and I talked about this with your older ones. Like you've already done what you think you've done with them.
Yes.
Right? At this point, you're just hoping that you did it the right way.
Right. The educators call it wet concrete. Like 9 to 13 is wet concrete. And then after that, they're kind of set.
Yeah.
Right. Like my daughters are wonderful people, but
just because they're set, that doesn't mean that concrete can't get busted up and repoured.
It can get changed and they can make life-altering decisions. We've all done it. We've all made life-altering decisions. The decision to get free of drugs and alcohol, right? The decision to cut out negativity, the decision to turn our life over to Jesus Christ, right? We've all made life-altering decisions. I'm just talking about these lessons about self-resilience, right? You start in this wet concrete phase. So they know them. They learn what you were doing with your daughter today was so critical because you're really just reinforcing the lessons you've already taught her about you have the self-resilience you're looking for inside you. Yeah. You're doing what everyone in your spot is doing. And it's about to be April. I got 24 days of school and a wake up and I'm getting my little piece of paper.
She's out there searching for prom dresses. And, you know, and I get it. I've been there.
Your brain is checked out.
And I don't know about y'all. When I was a senior high school, I only went from 8 to noon. And I'm like, what are you tripping on? You only go to school like literally 2 days a week.
Something that just hit me right here when you said, the life altering changes, right? We've all been through them, like you said. But here's something that I heard from that Atomic Habits book that I've also been listening to is that you can't rely on the life-altering changes. It's the daily changes that make an impact. Because the life-altering ones happen once, twice a life, right? You find out who you are when you're 25. You make, you buy a Harley at 50, midlife crisis, whatever, life-altering.
50.
But it's one of those things where you have to go back to, like in your business and say, okay, it's not the life-altering change for my business. It's the daily progress that's moving the needle.
That's right.
So don't get wrapped up in just a big bang theory.
Yeah. I mean, because what do they say? You change 1% a day, you made a 365% increase.
They say that. Yeah. I mean,
right. Well, because the fact is nobody changes 1% per day.
No.
21 days to make a new habit, right?
You know what I mean? So really over the course of the year, you probably changed for the better about 25%.
Yeah. It's about 17% statistically.
Right.
Yeah. But if you do 1% a day, and that's being like on your shit every single day.
That's huge ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I think that's a big takeaway from Mr. Goggins' message is that you can push towards self-improvement. He was in his early 40s when he did this 100-mile deal, had been a member of the SEAL teams for years, several deployments, right? At 18 months in Bud's training because
he went through Army Ranger School.
Right.
Yeah.
He was constantly pushing himself towards self-improvement. And that's what, again, habit, 21 days. And just in case there's a little reminder there, a life-altering moment. This was a guy who was an exterminator. Nothing wrong with exterminators. Jeremy Pence, we love you.
305 pounds.
305 pounds, lost 100 pounds in 90 days to get into the Navy Reserve. Was barely literate, had to study his ass off. Sorry, Keith.
Yeah.
Hashtag sorry, Keith. Study his ass off to pass the ASVAB to get into the Navy Reserve, had to study his ass off again to get into Bud's. And then became one of the most elite ultra marathon runners in the world, right?
60 of them.
It's a commitment to excellence. And it all started with a big life altering decision, but little steps every day multiplied over time, turning that into success, right? And now he's one of the most inspirational authors, speakers, what have you.
Yes, he's an icon in the world of running.
Yes,
certainly.
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his, you know what I mean? But he gives a lot of people tons of inspiration, changes people's mindsets to for mine included. So he's done a wealth of good for people out there sharing his story. And he's got a pretty daunting story.
What I love about him though, is he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, he don't sugarcoat shit.
Right. And I relate to that very much so, because I'm very, blunt,
really
candid.
I would have never
but
like, that's really a shock to me.
To the point.
What I'm trying to push into
that's like
is
almost the first time I found out you were Marine.
like
it was such a surprise.
These little daily things that we're dealing with, like what I've been working on personally for myself in my business, is to take a step back and be a little bit more not aggressive, right? And even though I don't think I'm being aggressive, I'll hang up the phone and my wife says, you're such an asshole on the phone. And I'm like, I thought that was a great conversation. But the point is that I now know that is something that I need to be working on. And those are the little steps we're talking about. Not my story specifically, but if those kind of things in your life or your business, if someone's telling you something, listen, turn a listening ear, listen twice, speak once, because you never know on the other end of this phone what that person just hung up and goes, yep, not doing business with that guy. He's a fucking turd.
Tonality. And it really is. And it boils down to how you convey your thoughts and ideas to other people. Because if you talk a certain way and you use prolific words in abundance, right? And you're talking to people that really have a reading level and an education level of like a freshman, and you talk with astute words, they're not going to want to do business.
I mean, you got to balance the relationship based off the feeling.
Can I say something
Please?
Real quick? Just following up on what you said. You, in a lot of ways, remind me of Kobe, right? Your leadership is fuck you, get on my level. In a lot of ways. And that's why your wife calls you out on that. And right. And there's nothing wrong with that level of leadership, right? Because your teammates are going to be mad for a second when, like, man, he could have been nicer when he hung up the phone. You think the boss is mad at me, Mike?
Yeah.
On the other hand, they're going to be happy with the results, right? With that bonus check, with that extra commission, with whatever it is, the skill set, right? What they get to put in their toolbox and those little paychecks to the heart, they're going to be happy with the results. And there's a balance there. And maybe that's something we dive into in another, you know, Goggins is a lot like that, right? Goggins is not a sugar-coated guy. He's like, Rannigan, if you're on my team, get on my level. You're a different leader. I'm a different leader, right? I like to think of myself as like a Phil Jackson. Jennifer says that's total bullshit.
I agree.
Apparently, I'm a lot more like Jordan or Kobe.
Hey, Phil Jackson was an asshole too, though.
It could be.
Phil Jackson was get on my level, or you're not on my team.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's all true. But he was very Zen-like, right?
Yeah.
Very Zen.
The way he conveyed his message, was different.
So the point though is that there is a space and a need for not sugarcoating, because while tonality matters when you're talking about business relationships and business development, absolutely critical. But when it comes to leadership, there's a space and a need for F you, get on my level, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Skinner, this project isn't going right. You better have it fixed by Friday, close of business. Right. I mean, there's a need for that, right? Because you have to help your teammates figure out, just like David did, right? They got more in them. Dig deep, right? Get the shovel out.
Like you said, it's a balance, man, because that's what I'm working on, is the get on my level, but then also, okay, let me understand, let me listen, you know what I mean? So I took a lot away. Again, I like how we're diving into this book, not necessarily how I listened to it from start to finish here and there, but I like just picking a chapter and just diving into that chapter. Yeah. Because you really get to kind of think about more of what's going on inside of that. And I took so much away from today and reading it again and listen to it again or whatever. And just like, you know what? I need to stop and look for my cookies every now and then. Because sometimes I'm way more hard on myself than I should be.
And you probably got more cookies in that jar than you're even aware of.
Yeah.
And it's fuel in these moments of adversity, right? To just have this. I never thought about it before. And these books, not just this book, but books by other successful business people or other successful people who inspire. And that's who we study. Why? Because we want to be great, right? And how do you become great? Well, study greatness. So that all being said, right, having these little chocolate chip cookies stored up in your mind where you can tap into them at mile 81 or 95, right? He was walking and not on pace to finish at mile 89.
Correct.
And by 91, he was running again and not fast, right? But he was running again and picked his pace back up enough that he had time to do an extra mile just to make sure he did the 100 miles.
Yeah. I mean, he's an incredible individual.
Those cookie jars gave him that fuel.
I want to run through the circle real quick. I'm just going to tell you what one of my takeaways are, and then you guys let us know what one of your takeaways from this chapter and how it helped your business.
Okay.
One of the deals that I wrote down was the laws of physics don't apply to winning a trophy. And the reason I took that is because the universe is always going to do what the universe is going to do.
Always.
The laws of physics are always going to be what goes up must come down. Right. And for every action, there's a reaction. But that, you know what I mean? So we have to stay consistently kind of focused on the process versus this trophy, because it is inevitable.
Yeah.
That something in this world is going to crumble and throw a kink in your day. The universe is going to go sideways on you. You know what I mean? And so when I heard that and he kind of used the laws of physics, it kind of related to me because it makes sense. Now I can take a law of physics and I go, yeah, I could definitely see how gravity whooped my ass today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when your legs feel like metal.
It's a long way down from a roof. Okay, gravity will win, right? And that's the universe doing whatever. That's me chasing the trophy. I'm gonna get up here. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm not gonna pay attention to nothing. Boom, boom, boom. Get down. Talk to the homeowner. Close contract. Off to the next one. Oh, and then the universe goes, ooh, how about that, Mike? How about a nice little slip?
Hold on, buddy.
Hold on, Cowboy. Let me
remember that ankle that you busted back in 04?
Let's talk about all that. You know what I mean? There's always going to be the force of average, and there's always going to be that out there. But the way he says it, and he's like, as long as you respect the universe and the laws of physics in your body, yes, it will take you to greatness. But if you jump into something well before you're ready for it, it can cripple you.
Yeah. That's a great takeaway, man.
All right, my takeaway was something I read this book a long time ago, and it's been a minute. And one thing I really loved about, let's just pick a chapter, and Jeff picked a chapter. I think it's important not to go in order all the time, because you start losing sight of, chapter 6 is just as important as chapter 1. In fact, Jeff thinks it's the most important chapter. And after revisiting it and listening to it, I agree with Jeff. And here's why. Because it's a reminder, right? One of the cookie jars in your life is pain, your pain threshold, because it pushes you to be greater. And we've all been through some pain. I don't care what it is. Everybody's got a scrape, a cross to bear, a something that is driving them.
Yeah.
Right. And being reminded that you don't even know how deep you can dig, right? Like Mr. Goggins is sharing this story about how deep he had to dig into more pain than he'd ever been through in his extremely painful life. 18 months in buds, right? He says in the book, pain was my living room. It's where I functioned the best. And this took him beyond any pain threshold he'd ever been through, whether in combat or in training, and taught him that he can do so much more than he thought he was capable of, right? Just the expansive power of your mind to overcome anything. So that's what I took away from it. Thank you, Jeff.
Man, my takeaway from this whole thing is respect the journey. You know what I mean? It sums up in a short few words for me, but oftentimes looking back on some challenging times in my day, as I grow older, this chapter has helped me learn to kind of sit in that pain and live with that pain, digest that pain,
embrace it. That's why they say embrace the suck.
Exactly, because it's that pain, it's that uncomfort, that's where the growth is for me. And I'm very much with this guy. Like, unfortunately, like Doc lives in chaos and that's how he loves it. Me, I thrive in a stressful environment. Like, I get maybe turned into asshole mode, but you know what? Shit gets done and I'm super focused. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, my takeaway
Shaq will get his 13 dunks.
Yeah, it's just,
Kobe will ensure that happens.
Don't forget to live in the pain momentarily, but don't stay there.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, man, guys, we told you guys we're making some changes. We're doing a quick 30-minute in, out. You guys continue to go out there, crush the day. Thank you for so much.
Wins. Throw them in the chat.
Yeah, definitely put them in the comments. And we can reply back and we can put our own wins in the comments. But we're trying to really just get in on our set, push as much great value to you guys, and really kind of grow and build this. So if you like the content that we're putting out, please like, share, comment, let your friends know about it. We're going to be hosting an event this year, but it's with your support is the only way we're going to be able to be successful. So again, thank you guys for showing up again like we always do.
Appreciate you.
Brother.